then the person was able to go and get all these things written up that they wanted to for each of the team members in their own voice. And I was thinking as you were saying that, why wouldn't you do that for every single customer? So you're speaking to them in their voice, right? And
Absolutely.
it's like mirroring is one of the best ways to connect with people, and that's a great way to do it. I love that use case. I think I'm gonna package it up for our team.
No charge.
Exactly.
My name is John Santaferraro, and this is The Digital Analyst, where AI makes sense and digital dominance begins.
The Digital Analyst with John Santaferraro, powered by Insight Jam.
In today's fast-paced world of AI marketing, the rate of innovation is outpacing the ability of marketing executives to keep up. The marketing technology landscape has grown 100 times since 2011. And now with AI in full-on expansion mode, there are 15,384 solutions in the marketing landscape. Along with new companies entering the fray every day, product innovation is running at Mach speed, with every vendor rushing to release copilots, natural language interfaces, chatbots, and now AI agents. For most executives and marketing professionals, it is too much to keep up with. They don't have the time to stop and get a master's degree in AI to better understand what is happening and, more importantly, to ascertain where AI is taking the marketing technology stack. For this reason, I'm excited to welcome Lara Shackelford to today's episode of The Digital Analyst. Lara is the SVP of Growth Marketing, RevTech, and CRM at iCapital. Lara has amazing experience as a chief marketing officer in the data, analytics, and AI industry, where she worked for companies like Microsoft, Intel, Marketo, and Oracle. That alone would be enough to qualify her to speak on our topic today. But it wasn't enough for her. She went to the University of Oxford to get a postgraduate diploma in artificial intelligence. So grab a glass of wine or a cup of coffee and join me on my Tuscan farm in the hills between Lucca and Florence for The Digital Analyst. A big digital welcome to Lara Shackelford. It is so good to have you on The Digital Analyst. Welcome.
Thank you, John. So exciting to be with you here on a podcast after our many conversations over the years and pontificating about AI and data strategy and all the things. So, and then little marketing thrown in there too, right? So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention, are we allowed to talk about what happened at the Northwest BI Summit? The greatest think tank in all time.
I think it was the night that a few people broke into the kitchen.
We won't mention names.
No.
Oh, that's awesome. I've been so looking forward to our conversation because you are the first guest on my podcast that is not only an AI thought leader, but you're using AI to transform your business. You're in the trenches. You described it to me as building AI accelerated growth engines, blending data, automation, and real-time signals to drive relevance and engagements across complex B2B journeys. I love that definition. It sounds insanely practical to me, but it doesn't sound easy. Can you describe a little more about what you're doing with AI?
Yeah, it is sure not easy. The change management alone is one of the hardest parts. And of course, I can't talk much about specifically about what we're doing, but I'll talk about the idea, which is, you want to have a signal driven. So I'm just parroting what you said, signal driven growth engine. But I love listening to John Miller talk about this because marketing automation. In fact, I remember 2009 when I implemented my first marketing automation system. I had what was the one that began with an A? It was acquired by Teradata. Anyway, that was forced on us, and it was not the right fit
After
for our
data.
business. No, no, it was,
No.
anyway, it'll come to me once we hang up,
Yeah.
but it was brutal, and then finally we got to, 2012, we started using Marketo at Click, and then things were really flying, and we felt like it was just so mature, the model that we had, passing MQLs over to sales and having this data-driven, approach. But in the end, the marketing and automation platforms really broke a lot between sales and marketing, right? So the idea that marketing was gonna, I swear in my life I was never one of those marketers, but this idea that marketers are gonna generate a bunch of MQLs and we'll agree the handoff, right? And then you agree the handoff, and then sales can't convert any of them. And then, well, I don't know what's going on with sales, but marketing's meeting their number, right? And again, not very many people I know done that, but I have seen it happen before. And it's just this idea, that whole broken idea that customers were not humans, that they were these objects that we push through a funnel, right? And I just now with this signal data that's available to us, we can meet people so much more where they are. I love to tell the story of one of my a seller I worked with who found out that he was on his way to meet his, oh gosh, it was a primo. Um, that we implemented in 2009. Anyway, seller was on his way to a meeting with a client. And the client called right before and said, "Hey, I can't make it. I just found out my dog has cancer and I have to go home." And so the guy, though, was right across the street from the customer's office. And so he went into Publix and went and grabbed dog treats and went and left them at the reception for the guy. And the guy is just like indebted to him, and it was what, 15, $20. So like, and half an hour of his life that he was going to spend with the customer anyway. But um, that's a signal he got in real time, right? We didn't need technology or AI for that. But there are so many signals like that that we can learn now and meet people where they are as human beings versus, deciding that we think that their next step should be this webinar, or, that person is going to want to receive an email on Tuesday at noon versus this idea of this person's behavior, who they are personally and professionally, that is driving how we engage with them. And the buyer's journey is completely changed as we know. So we have no choice. We have to move to this, new world that's not about marketing automation platforms. It is about real-time engagement.
Yeah, it seems like some of the secret sauce is this place where real time signals and automation mix, and
Right.
and somehow AI comes into that equation. What is on top of that? I peeked 15,000 different solutions now on the Martech landscape. 15,000.
That's
And
all.
so yeah, yeah, and so from a CMO perspective, it's like I get that you wanna do these real-time signals and you wanna automate things and AI is gonna get thrown in there, but with 15,000 options, it's like, how do you navigate all that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, and it's sadly, I hardly look at my LinkedIn messages anymore. I mean, because of AI, unfortunately, like the good side of AI for marketers and business leaders is these real-time signals that we can get and the ability to your point, automate, acting on them. And then the other side of it is just the complete overload, and AI has made it possible for people to draft all this really crummy content. And I'm amazed every time I receive an outreach that says, "I hope you're well." I'm like, how do you not have that hard coded into your chat GPT instructions? Never use that sentence, right? But anyway, I think it's hard. And it's funny, I was just telling someone the other day, we were trying to think of a really original webinar. We were going to do something with this really cool company called Goldcast. And they just have like a really nice platform that does a lot. We were going to use them for a webinar and then I eventually thought, why don't I just do good old fashioned customer reference? And I'll get a panel together and, that just delivers every time. And I was thinking about myself because still, if I'm thinking, I want to know people that I respect, thought leaders in my space. I want to know who they're working with and who they regard, and I have a couple of CMO friends that will check in with each other every few months and say, "Who are you hearing about?" "I'm hearing about this company." And, Amanda Kalo, she was the CEO behind Sixth Sense originally. And so, she started a new company. I think it's One Mind. It is. But it's just, I still go back. And the reason I mentioned the references, I still go for references from people that I respect. That's where I get it. And then when you find people in the AI ecosystem, sorry, it's run on, but when you find people in the ecosystem that you know and respect, like there's a go-to-market engineer at Clay. I just love Clay, by the way, too, for signals and getting that real-time data. But he is so knowledgeable, and he has a newsletter called Claymation, and I swear I read it every week. And every time think when I see him mention another vendor, I'm like, okay, that's on my list that I have to check out. Even if I don't have a call with them, I have to know that, what they're up to. So yeah, I feel like you find those people that you know and trust, and that's still where I get my sources and vet things.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't say I just go to ChatGPT. Apparently, the network and the community is still one of the most important
Right.
pieces in developing a marketing technology strategy.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's funny. You go to ChatGPT and you can be as clever as anyone at prompting and do all the things, but it just doesn't hit the real understanding of what would be best in that situation. And yet, I'm sure at some point it will, but I haven't found it.
Unlock better leads through Solutions Review events.
Welcome to Data Demo Day. Expert Roundtable, Solution Spotlight featuring Monte Carlo, Cohesity, Denodo, Cloudflare, High Gear, Broadcom, Next Thing.
Boost your brand with a webinar that shares comprehensive use cases, real-time product demos, and an interactive Q&A. All broadcast live to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Zoom from our Boston studio, or even on location. Fill your sales funnel with high-quality targeted leads. And contact us today by visiting solutionsreview.com/virtual events.
Okay, so back to the technology a little bit.
Mhm.
I've been talking about AI as the great unifier of everything, as an interface, to everything. And we've been trying to unify analytics for decades, and we're probably closer now than ever. We've been working on unifying data engineering, and all of these things are happening, but you're talking about the unification or the intersection of three technologies: marketing, sales, and product, or at least three categories, right? That could
Mhm.
be revolutionary if all three of those could come together. I haven't seen it yet, but what do you see happening, and what do you think the potential might be when sales, marketing, and product are all united?
I love how you identified that in that way because it's funny. I'm I'm doing that, and yet I haven't thought about it in that kind of category. But that's exactly it because I worked with a customer once who was when I was doing some AI consulting, and their product was, they were trying to figure out, hey, when someone goes to this place in our product, they click on it. Usually means that when they go that far, they're usually pretty serious about buying. But then we see enough of them abandon, but if we go back and re-engage them, so what they had done is they set up a situation for they had a dashboard that every day they would get the report of who clicked yesterday, and they would go back and reach out and actually call those individuals or email them, and they said what really worked was less calling and saying saw you clicked here because that was creep. People found that creepy, but they would send an email within a day or two. That said, hey, this topic is at a high level really compelling to people right now. It can help solve these problems. And then they would make sure that subtopic was one of the items in there, right? So and they happen to get it, but they said when they did that, people were more likely to engage and convert. And I just, you think about that, it's like, why did they have to do that through a dashboard, and then
Yeah.
they had to go look every day. Like there should have just been a signal set up from the product to sales to marketing. Marketing has, I don't know, in that scenario, there were maybe like 40 to 60 things people could have clicked on, but write an email for every single one of those 60 or the top 20 of the 60, right? And when they click on it, they get an email. And if they get engaged, then the seller follows up with a 45-second video or something. I don't know, 90-second video, but it really is that like getting the, the unification of sales, marketing, and product. I think you've hit it. Another example is, the sales outreach tools that are out there, and there are several. Like an Outreach, a Sales Loft, a Red Genius, right? People have been using those for quite a while, but the beauty of those lies in having those being connected as part of this, the ability to act on signals. So, in that example that I gave, we see that someone clicks, marketing sends an email on Tuesday morning. On Wednesday, that seller, like I said, sends them that pre-recorded video because they're getting the signal, their outreach tool, whatever they're using, is completely connected to their marketing automation, right? And it all tracks and goes back into Salesforce or whatever CRM that the company is using. So, yeah, it's a beautiful story. I'll have to find a way to speak to it as elegantly as it's running through my mind.
It's interesting because I spent the early part of my career trying to align those three things as a consultant. And
Mm.
In fact, a lot of my career was spent trying to do that around
Right.
actually revenue, not around marketing goals or sales goals or product greatness. It was about revenue, right? And so I
Mhm.
understand from a consulting standpoint how to make those things work together. But from a technology standpoint, how do you stitch them together? Because they are separate systems as far as I know, or maybe there are systems that where they have all come together now, but how do you stitch them together?
I tend to default and think that everyone keeps their core data in Snowflake, but, there are lots of ways to do that now. But I think you have one system that is the ultimate system of record that is, an application that's often your CRM, and then you have your market automation platform that syncs with it. And you make sure that your outreach tool, whether it's one that comes with your CRM or it's a separate add-on, like one of the ones I mentioned earlier, syncs with your CRM. I think kind of it all has to have that one place, because then you can push signals back and forth and you can get information that you can then automate and act on in your marketing automation platform. And does that answer your question? I mean, that's how I saw it play out at a company that I was working with recently.
Yeah, I that definitely answers the question. I just am concerned because if they all start working together, then none of them will have anybody to blame if the results aren't there.
It sounds a little bit like people too.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Maybe not.
No, definitely. Um, let's kind of break it down a little more in these three individual areas: sales, marketing, and product. And let's start with marketing. I mean, there's so much noise, and literally, we know thousands now of AI-enabled marketing vendors with different kinds of solutions. What is real, and more importantly, what should our listeners be investing in when it comes to AI-enabled marketing?
Well, one thing that's important is making sure that you don't have your marketing organization, depending, no matter how big or small they are, that everyone is going to find something that they want to play around with, and they think like, "Oh, this will solve this problem," and it's fun. I encourage everyone, especially marketers, to experiment, right? And at the same time, you can't end up in an organization where you shouldn't, you don't want to end up in an organization where you've got seven different, AI video production tools that people are using, right? For all the reasons we know, but especially for compliance. And so I think really like, I think every organization, on the one hand, we're talking about marketing, but every organization needs a cross org AI strategy now. Or if they don't, I still see companies that don't have one, then which just amazes me. And I think they need some, a central AI council, and they need a governance policy. And if people want to bring on new AI tools, then that should be something that's vetted at a central level. And I don't think though that it should be discouraged. Like marketing teams, I think there's an incredible amount of things that we can do now with video. Webinars are getting so much better with what we can do with them and turn them immediately into lots of content that can be reused. There's, the tools like Copy AI and Jasper for writing, which you can do a lot of writing just with ChatGPT, but I like that they get so specialized for our use cases. So my thing is I don't want to discourage people, but I also want to encourage unification and a shared approach, and also working with the right approach from the outset. So, like, there's one AI vendor I worked with that I don't want to name because they're giving us something really big for free, as they don't do POCs, but they're doing a POC for us. And it's like I'm putting them through the whole painful onboarding process, like they're going through everything with vendor, even though it's a zero, with vendor onboarding, even though it's a $0 contract, because I wanna make sure there's nothing, and I'm sure I could go rogue and go and, just do it under the radar, and suddenly there's this video that, from a webinar we did. Oh, sorry. I didn't say that. But anyway, but the point is that I think it's so important that marketing organizations, I think you should have a map. These are the use cases that we wanna solve, but, and these are the ones where there are tools out there that support them, and these are the ones that are like, we're going to go build agents, or we're going to, just use ChatGPT in this way, or build. There's so many scenarios, right? But I think you should have that prioritized list of use cases. and start there, and then have a cross organizational within marketing and cross company approach for vetting things like that. I don't, is that, am I answering your question? I feel like I might be talking around it.
Yes. No, no, I think that, the downside is that it's a complex set of technologies to do marketing
Mhm.
automation. It's not like you buy one tool and you're done, one and done, right? Um,
Exactly.
the upside is that it still requires strategic thinking to be able to figure out which of the pieces to put together, how to put them together, how to deploy them, how to use them within the organization to be able to beat the competition. So it sometimes when we're talking about AI based marketing and these new capabilities, it sounds like it's going to come over and take over our jobs. But first of all, the pieces don't come together without some technical and strategic thinking, and they don't work together for the organization to achieve the goals of the organization without that strategic mind behind them. So there's still a critical role for chief marketing officers to play when it comes to technology.
Very critical. With any of it, all you get out of it is what you put in, right? And my favorite questions anyone's ever asked me about AI. I had a peer who said, "Hey, I just started using ChatGPT for deep research. It's incredible. I lost my whole weekend." And he said, "But does it ever scare you? You know, like, do you wish that you had just had a tool like this 30 years ago?" And my answer was, "Heck no," because if I yeah, and there's opportunity for everyone at every level, and we should all, be all in on AI in whatever ways are appropriate to our organization. And at the same time, so I don't think, people who are early in their experience, they can definitely get value out of it. But for me, I'm like, God, the things I try to do, I can do them if I didn't have my decades of experience that I pile into the chat GPT as an example when I'm talking. And I'm like, no, you got that wrong. Go back and fix this. You don't understand a go to market strategy needs to include this aspect. And you need to think about this. Like it's still, it's a, what is it? Is it singularity? What is the term when it's like the human and machine just working in synchronicity? That's where I think that's where I hope that this ends up, is that AI does replace a lot of jobs and it creates as many or more than it replaces with better and smarter ways of working. We'll
Yeah.
see. Obviously, none of us knows.
Absolutely. What about sales? I mean, sales CRM's been around for a long time. Sales automation, new AI capabilities seem to be doing a lot for the salesperson, especially in terms of being able to free up the salesperson's time to be able to do the sales instead of having to navigate the system and work the system. I mean, if
I know.
salespeople are spending an inordinate amount of time just entering stuff into the system, and
Yeah,
in many organizations, they just don't even do it at all because it's not
exactly.
in their psychological makeup. So, what is the impact of AI on sales automation and CRM, and what is the expected return on investment?
Uh, I, I, I just can't wait to see sales teams really thrive through what AI can do for them, and is doing. And there must be many out there who have this story just nailed already. But I was at a Salesforce presentation recently, and they were saying their number one use case is for Agent Force is, sorry, I think number one was call notes, and number two was account a meeting prep, or it was vice versa. Those were whatever it was. Those were the top two, and those two things are so simple. And yet, the number of times that sales leaders struggle to get follow up put into the CRM right after a meeting, especially if it's an in person meeting where they're not sitting there and calls having the call recorded and just transcribed for them, right? I think there's just so much opportunity to your point. I can't remember. Maybe you remember the number. There was a percent that it's something like 30 or 40% of a salesperson's time was spent on non-selling time.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, but I think we can automate so many of the things that make their jobs so hard. And then the real brilliance will come in to figuring out how we can engage with their audience in these unique ways, and like, and I don't know about you, my whole career, it seems like there will always be at any organization maybe 2 to 3 sellers, and I mean, I know it depends on the size of the org, but, it seems like there will usually be, like, 2 to 3 sellers I end up going to who are the real, like, creative thinkers and how they're gonna engage with their clients, and they'll be, like, I know someone at one org who, puts a, like, bright pink silk, a curtain behind him every time that he gives a webinar to this very serious audience that he speaks to. And it's so not on brand at that company, but he said people like it. They like that I don't take myself so seriously. And so I think, those like let's harness that energy. Whatever the ideas that they have that they do differently that helps them to be top performers. And I'll tell you, John, I remember in 2015 I was at a startup and we baked sales methodology into a SaaS product, target account selling, if you remember way back to this to
Yep.
Chaz. And we launched a product at Dreamforce. We heard that Salesforce Max was coming out. Einstein was coming out. And so we went and launched our Max product that was basically the whole idea was help all your reps sell like your best rep, and it was all about coaching, people. It was using AI to coach managers and go focus on these deals. These are the deals that are at risk. It was telling an individual seller to, that they needed to re-engage with these specific accounts. It's funny because a lot of things we were trying to do, we weren't doing very effectively yet. That was the vision, we were trying to get there. But today those things are all possible. And, I think it's so much of this. You even go back to, like, I remember when I was at Oracle in the UK in 2001, and we started talking about this. What was it called back then? It was basically a single view of the customer, but we had an acronym for it. We still today are trying to get to that single view of the customer. It evolves, right? And there's more that we're able to do anyway.
I'm excited about the individual view of the customer that AI can give us in sales, and especially through the use of psychographics. Because if you think about it, sort of the Chat GPT and Gemini and Grok and Claude interface is a language model. And that language model understands personality based on whatever personality tests and measurements are available. And they understand, because they have all of that knowledge of language, they know exactly how to communicate to a person based on their personality. I don't know a sales rep that knows how to do that. A sales rep is whoever they are and they communicate, but the language model can actually understand the personality of the person that they're speaking to, and they understand how they are persuaded based on their personality, and they understand the type of decision maker they are, either options or process, one of the two, right? And literally, they can, by creating these profiles of their customers, or even buying teams, it's possible to create a
Yes.
sort of
Oh, I love that.
a role-based model of the entire decision-making team at your customer, and then craft your presentations, craft your communications, all understanding exactly how they're going to view it, what objections they're going to come up with before they happen. This is something we've never had at our fingertips, and it's no longer just the automation. It's actually the communication intelligence that they need to actually persuade their audience.
Oh, I love how you call it communication intelligence, and you just gave me a brilliant idea. By the way, I love using the tools to create synthetic data and create focus groups. And when I was working on actually every paper in my master's that I'm just completed, every one of them, I would create a focus group of my professor. Gosh, I forget what they call it, the group that grades your papers. But anyway, I would create a focus group of them. Unfortunately, no matter how hard I asked them to be, they always graded my papers higher than they were actually graded in the end. But yeah, there's so much opportunity. But I was speaking with someone recently who said, "Oh, I'm working on this project right now, and I have to basically give input to each of my direct reports on something, and I'm just trying to put it in Chat GPT, but it's so annoying because it spits back stuff, and they said I don't talk like this, and I was like, oh, hold on, I'll send you something after the call, and during the call, I would write down phrases, and we can't like anyway, you have to be careful about recording calls, otherwise that would have been a much easier way to do it, but I just grabbed a couple of phrases and then put in my own experience with a person. And I said, now create a 2-page tone and voice document for this person and give me the perfect prompt, that they can put in themselves into whatever language model they're using. And then the person was able to go and get all these things written up that they wanted to for each of the team members in their own voice. And I was thinking, as you were saying that, why wouldn't you do that for every single customer? So you're speaking to them in their voice, right? And
Absolutely.
it's like mirroring is one of the best ways to connect with people, and that's a great way to do it. I love that use case. I think I'm going to package it up for our team.
No charge.
Exactly.
Want more Insight Jam? Subscribe to our YouTube channel for shorts, panels, podcasts, and more. In your Shorts feed, enjoy a daily dose of best practices from tech experts and leading solution providers, while long-form panel discussions and keynotes, recorded live every quarter, go deep on important industry topics. And don't miss our collection of regular podcasts, keeping you informed on the latest trends. We're hard at work collecting the best enterprise technology information from around the globe, so subscribe to be notified of our next upload. Now, let's get back to the show.
Let's jump ahead to product, the third of this dynamic trio of organizations, right? We know that AI is changing the world of coding, but product is so much more than coding. There's opportunities to design better products, be more customer-centric, reimagine old products, innovate new products never before seen in the market. Of all three of these, I'm wondering if perhaps product is the most valuable of the three when it comes to AI enablement. And of
Mm,
course, if product then aligns with sales and marketing, the power of the three is multiplied many, many times. But I'm
right.
going to let you decide where to take this discussion. What are the opportunities that AI brings to the product part of this trio of sales, marketing, and product?
Hmm. Well, it's interesting because I think there's a huge opportunity. Every organization, you can bucket people in, into, oh, companies in this industry act like this, but every organization is unique, as we know. And if a company has really nailed their go-to-market motion through, I think, smart use of AI to get to signals and engaging, with people where they are, letting them drive the journey, then I think there's an opportunity for a product organization to actually harness that and package it up because other people aren't there yet, and how do you take the way that you're acquiring customers, that marketing and sales engine that you've built, and package that up and offer it as part of your product offering? I think that's a brilliant thing that people can do right now, and kind of get ahead of others who aren't there yet. I mean, you're already ahead of them if you're there. But what I mean is help them catch up. In the meantime, you get to monetize it. But there are so many things that we do now that we through AI that can become a part of our product offering, right? And so I think just even stepping back and looking at the different motions in the company and figuring out which one of those are truly unique to you and could be valuable to other organizations, and figure out, like, which ones are worth the investment to go and try to. I mean, you'd have to obviously do analysis, but which ones are worth the investment to go and try to figure out what other areas of product you move into. And then there's also, it's so interesting, every organization that on the product side, there's, I like the idea of being able to take your go-to-market engine, and resell it to others when it's um, sophisticated enough to do so. And then there's also just this unification that data you can get today with through AI, that people, I think, have been trying for a long time. But if you think about, like, a company can have notifications that they send out through their product, right? And but then who else is communicating with customers, and how are those people being notified? You've got a customer support group, you've got product communicating, you've got sales communicating, marketing. And I think the opportunity too is to look at all the ways you're communicating with your customers and figure out how you can make those experiences more connected. Because in most companies I've seen, they're still very disconnected. And you're like, wait, that group is doing what? Like, they're not even unsubscribing their bounce backs because they didn't even know that that was a thing. But there's a huge opportunity where data and AI can be this unifier among the different teams and the way they engage, and look at, like, what kind of discipline and tools can you put in place that looks at all the interactions. I know I'm not articulating it exactly the way I have it in my head, but
Yeah, I mean,
um,
I think you're kind of getting to the fact too that a there's a potential for a product company to be able to better understand their user base, customers, we say, right? But the users of
mhm,
the product, and then to begin to segment those users based on how they actually use the product. It's something that I mean, some companies spend a lot of time doing that if they have apps or web solutions, SaaS, they do it. But every product is going to have digital data on how people are using it. And in the past, we've had one product and many different users. And I think there's an opportunity coming forward in the future with AI to be able to personalize the product based on
I
these
agree.
different
Yes,
custom
yes.
segmentations. The example that I always use is I'm an advisor to a company called Organomics that has come up with this system of organizing people based on their personality, their preferences, and their learning styles. And so they do a personality profile and then set up a system of organization based on that. And when I
Oh,
think
how
of how
great.
that is being done, that can be built into a product, even something as simple as email. Email today has become
Mm,
commoditized, but nobody has touched the user interface to realize that there are different personality models in terms of how people want to have their email organized. Some people that are extroverts and highly relational, they might want to see it by people and not by date and by topic and in folders, and put some faces of the people that matter most to me. I want their emails over here. And somebody who's an introvert might never want to see all of that. They just might want a search interface and be able to ask a question of the
mm,
email and say, "Can you please just give me any emails that have to do with these 7 topics?" Done. So
mm.
I think that when it comes to product, like what we've done in terms of personalization for marketing and personalization for sales, we now have an opportunity to do that same kind of personalization for users within a product. Now think of the power of all 3 of those things together.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's this unique opportunity in time where those 3 organizations together can really engage differently and be much smarter, and yeah, I love what you just said. I'm gonna look at ergonomics. I feel like I need someone who can understand my way and help me be organized. Sounds very cool.
Yeah. So, one last question. We've covered a lot of ground here, but what kind of advice would you give to business leaders, marketing leaders, sales leaders, product leaders about growth and the intersection of marketing, sales, and product? What kind of practical advice would you give?
It's funny, I was all ready to give you an answer that was AI, right? Oh, to go learn AI, they should go do this, but you asked me a question about growth. Um, and what advice would I give them? And I think that the biggest one, it goes back to the age-old idea of having a growth mindset. And what I always tell my team, I mean, I'm going to address the AI piece just to be sure that's not a stone that I leave unturned, but then I'll go back to the kind of overall larger thinking. But I mean, if with AI specifically, it's just get in and mess up and, figure out what works and doesn't work. And like the best way is just to start and get into a tool and get in Notebook LM and create something, create a podcast from just information, like there's so many things to do and we need to just try. And the more that we try and experiment with the different tools that are available, we'll just be smarter. And then, of course, there are, the people that I think are just the experts like Ethan Mollick and Paul Reitzer does such a good he does 2 weekly podcasts, from the Marketing AI Institute. And I tell everyone I know to follow him. I should start getting referral fees from him at some point, but they just make AI so approachable. So from an AI perspective, I think there's lots of opportunity. But overall, what I keep telling my team, I'm like, question everything. Like this is a world today where we should question anything that we think, oh, we usually do this. No, like that. Ask yourself, can we do it differently? Can we do it better, faster, smarter? Like this is the one time everything is on the table. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And every time we stop and we question something now, there's like, wow, there are 18 different ways that we could do this and make it better or stop doing it. There's so much of the stuff that you and I know have done over the years in our careers where you think like, this is madness. Why are we emailing these people 18 times a month as an example? Not that I'm doing that, but you get the idea. And just so many of those things, they don't have to happen anymore. We can figure out smarter ways through them. So I like that question everything.
Yeah, I love that. I just recorded a podcast this week Cloudera, and one of it for that one quick thing that they wanted to know, the advice that I gave, it was question everything. You're
Oh,
like,
really? Oh, great.
you couldn't have listened to it. It's just that we have this Vulcan mind meld, I guess, right? That
That's amazing. I love it. Well, we give good advice.
Well, Lara, thank you so much for joining the Digital Analyst. This has been a pleasure. I hope we can do this again sometime. It's exciting to
I would love
hear
that.
what you're up to with AI and with sales, marketing, and product.
Yes, I love the convergence there. So thank you, John. It was a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for joining the Digital Analyst today. If you enjoyed today's podcast, will you do me a favor and like and subscribe and share down below? If you're interested in contacting me, definitely let's connect on LinkedIn and continue this conversation about how AI is changing the world. If you want to connect with Lara Shackelford, best bet for her is also connect on LinkedIn. And I'm sure she would be happy to have a conversation with you about the work that she's doing. Most importantly, go to insightjam.com and check out the insightjam.com YouTube channel, where there is 1 million, yes, 1 million different subscribers to this channel. We hit it, and it's fantastic. There are hundreds of great videos there, great content, all about the technology industry. So definitely go check it out, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Powered by Insight Jam.